What is up, DMV basketball fans? Got a good one here for you today. I've got Tobias Bass, a college basketball recruiting writer for The Athletic. Tobias, how are you, man? Thanks for coming on.
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
I'm great. Happy to be talking basketball. Happy to be talking basketball with you. You're one of my favorite follows in all of college basketball, so this is great for me. Obviously, we've communicated in the past year too, so it's nice
Yeah.
to finally catch up and do one of these, and I appreciate making time on a Friday.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me on.
Before we get going, we're brought to you all by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside hard iced teas, hard lemonades, hard peach teas, hard half and halves. Every flavor is delicious. I can't recommend them highly enough. And we're brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, UFC, golf, everything you can think of. Obviously, football and basketball now that they're going too. And BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place all your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and use our promo code Bleav, BLEAV, for 50% off your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Tobias, I love following you on The Athletic. It's honestly one of the three major reasons. It's like you, Sam Vecini, and Josh Robbins, the Wizards guy. So that's pretty much justifies the subscription for me. So first of all, great stuff. And want to start here with one of your more recent articles about the top 20 freshmen in college basketball. For local basketball fans, Maryland fans in particular, it was nice to see you have Maryland's DeShawn Harris-Smith, number 11. I guess just want to talk about him a little bit. I know you've seen him on the scene a lot. So what can Maryland fans expect for him, and why did he feature so prominently on your rankings there?
So I know in the summertime he was arguably one of their better players. They have a good team. I think they have potential to be a top 20 team by the year's over. But he has a unique skill set for his size. He's 6'5", a little over 215 pounds. So he's a big kid.
Mm-hmm.
He really can shoot the ball, athletic, and he rebounds really well for his position. So I think that the way in which they play, they haven't had a freshman, at least on the wing recently, that kind of brings what he can do. So I think he'll be really good for them. I think he has a chance to, win freshman of the year in that league.
I'm totally with you. And he's like a nice change of pace or compliment to Jahmir Young, who's a little on the smaller side. So you've got DeShawn Harris-Smith, DHS, can do kind of all the other stuff. And everybody that talks about this guy, they throw out like all of the intangible buzzwords you like to hear, like plays hard, winner, dog, all that kind of stuff. Can you confirm that, I guess, for fans?
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. He's definitely going to play hard. I mean, the DMV kid, those kids are always tough. You have to be tough playing for coach. So I don't think he would see the floor if he wasn't. So I think that he'll definitely be a fan favorite for sure.
Coach Willard called him the most physically gifted player I've ever coached, and you put that in your write-up for this, and I thought that was great because he's coaching pretty good dudes, and he loves to recruit athletes. So that says a lot about DeShawn that he gets that kind of accolade from Coach Willard. This is a guy that you have ahead of DJ Wagner and Justin Edwards and players like that are probably projected lottery picks. Do you see DeShawn having like one and done potential?
I think he can do it, especially if he shoots the ball well. So for one, that list, there was a disclaimer in it that it wasn't supposed to be taken like in order, like 1 through 20.
Sure.
But
Just
he was gonna be on the list regardless. I mean, this dude, he's a special talent. But I think he could have a one and done year. I think there's going to be ups and downs in that league. It's, it's a super physical league. There's a lot of good teams in there too. So I think that if he's able to make shots at a decent clip and defend at the bare minimum, I can see that this draft isn't expected to be one of the best. So there's going to be players in this draft, specifically freshmen, that are going to come out of nowhere per se. I think he could be one of those.
Selfishly, I hope he's at Maryland for forever and we get to see a full 4-year career from him, but that would be a great sign for them if he performs well enough to go after 1 year. The other freshman, it sounds like everybody is really high on, is Jamie Kaiser. Have you seen much of Kaiser in person?
Really big fan of Jamie Kaiser. I've seen him play a few times. Some of his teams over the past, they've come down to Texas. I got to watch him a couple of times. And I saw him last year in about February, March. They played in the NIBC in LaPorte, Indiana. So I flew up there and I got to see him. Another one, really, I mean, he's super skilled. Also about 6'6", 205 pounds. He really can shoot it. I know they played, I Bleav, in Italy this summer. He had a game where he had 17 points and 12 rebounds in a blowout win. And what I like about these freshmen, Maryland brings back about 60% of their scoring from last year, so they have good guys that can help mentor them and help them, bring them up to speed. So they're not going to be relied upon, come save Maryland basketball. It won't be that type of thing. They have guys that are already there that can help them. So I like that for them a lot.
You lose two guys from the Maryland starting lineup last year, and Donald Carey and Hakeem Hart, two really good, productive college players. But then you add two freshmen that are, arguably have higher upside and a little more athletic, and that seems to fit the way that Kevin Willard wants to play. So I think they'll fit in really well there. Have you seen their third freshman at all, Jahnathan Lamothe?
I've seen him. I've seen him some. He's a good player. I think they're going to bring him up to speed too. He can really score. He's also been productive. I like him.
Yeah, I feel good about that. I think two guys there that contributed, especially with him and Kaiser. I have high hopes for Jamie Kaiser. The little bit I've seen so far seems like my kind of dude, and I think he's a guy that Maryland fans are going to really enjoy getting to watch more often.
For sure. And one stat too I want to talk about with Harris-Smith is I think last summer he shot 42% on catch and shoot threes. So there's big upside potential there. And then Kaiser, I mean, he's one of the best shooters in the class. So you put those two guys on the wing and they're able to stretch the floor. That makes easy baskets for your low post guys.
Is Kaiser a guy we see with pro potential longer term here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the NBA is now all about 3-and-D. The tall, he's tall for his position at 6'6" or so, good size. If he can shoot the ball, 36%, I think we're talking about a draft pick in a couple of years.
Wow, I love that. That would also be great for them too. They've been really productive. You mentioned that game over in Italy. That's been great to see, and hopefully that confidence carries into their opener here coming up. They play their first game on November 7th against Mount St. Mary's, another local team. So that'll be cool to see. And just really finally get eyes on them. We've heard so much. There's reporting coming out of who looks good in practice. You've got Dante Scott supposedly shooting the ball really well again. So I think Maryland fans are in for a big year here. As always with college basketball, I think at this point we're just kind of focused on, getting ready for conference play and things like that. The Big Ten is kind of grueling and it's a slog. Bugsy Terps asked, the first conference game is December 1st in Indiana at Assembly Hall. It's a Friday night. The place will be wild. Can we realistically expect the freshmen to handle that? I mean, having seen DeShawn and Jamie up close, do you think they're ready for that kind of atmosphere and environment?
There's no way that you can simulate. I mean, Indiana is wild in there. It's a zoo. It's a zoo in there, and they're also going to be good. So it's going to be wild in there. But again, I think that's where you have to lean on your older guys. It'll be an adjustment, but by the time they get to conference play, they would have played around 10 to 12-ish games before. Some of those games will be in hostile environments as well, so they'll be somewhat prepared for an environment like that. Not quite as hard like Assembly Hall, but they're played in the gym like that or something similar. So I think they'll be fine when it all comes together.
And these guys that are played high level, grassroots basketball, so they're going to have seen really talented guys before, and I know they all practice with good players in the summer too, so should be good. You got Jahmir Young. Maryland did not play particularly well on the road at all last year, really, and I think part of that is just a player like Jahmir Young coming from Charlotte takes a while to acclimate, kind of cooled off in the last part of the year, and he'll look better. You get Dante Scott back up to form. Julian Reese takes another step forward. I'm pretty excited about this group overall here. But the fan base, I think we can't help but looking forward as well. So next year's recruiting is sort of a big open issue for Maryland fans. They've struck out on a lot of guys that they were supposedly deep in the running with, but the big one that they're still in on, the sort of the prize of the recruiting class, is Derik Queen. He's down at Montverde, big 6'10" guy, pretty skilled. For anyone who's not familiar with Queen's game, can you break him down a little bit for us and what we're really talking about here as him as a player?
Just super dominant, physical, low post player. Also in LaPorte, I got to see him as well, and he was the best player in the gym. It wasn't even close when I was there. He's a type of player, at least in the high school level, he can put up 25 and 12, 14 rebounds with ease. But I think something about his game that isn't talked about enough is how good of a passer he is. He has really good feel, especially in the low post. That's why they're so good, because they can run offense through him. Give him the ball on the block, double team comes, he can pass out of the double team with either hand, which is super impressive to be so young as a big. And the motor comes and goes, but that's typical for a big man his age, and he's a big kid, so that typically comes and goes. But when he's engaged and they give him the ball down there, it's hard to stop him. I mean, he's really hard to stop. He kind of has a Diamond Stone feel. I just think that he's more offensively polished than Diamond was.
Yeah, he can do a little bit more for others, I think, and a little more creation there.
Yeah. I mean, look at his team at Montverde. He has Cooper Flagg, Liam, Asa Newell. I mean, they're loaded. So he's accustomed to playing with good players.
That was going to be my next question. Is he seems like a guy who could fit in day one, kind of with anyone, because he's really used to that. But also, there's not as much incentive for him most of the year probably to play 100% because it's kind of an easy button with the guys he plays with. So I think, on a college floor where he's expected to do maybe a little bit more than his high school team, maybe you see that more consistent motor or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, I Bleav they lost in the championship game or the game before. So I think I think him individually have a chip on there, so they want to win. This is your last year. All those guys leave pretty much, so you want to get Montverde basketball to what that super high standard. You don't want to be the group that didn't win,
Right,
especially
exactly.
your senior year. So I think you'll see him play with a little extra pep in his step.
This is a one and done caliber guy we're talking about here, right? Like he's that good.
He's good enough. I mean, now when we get to the college level, we want to see. So it's going to be the issue defense. He's a big kid, so he might have to slim down some. So
Okay.
you want to see how is he going to be in pick and roll defense because guards are going to go at him. Offensively, he's not going to shoot a ton of jumpers. It's more of a low posting, but the feel is there. He knows how to play. I would want to see him, get in a little bit better shape. Is there potential for him to be able to make even mid range jumper? Can we see something like that? But I think he can be a pro for sure. It just may be not a one and done.
Gotcha. Yeah, he was on Team Thrill, the AAU team with Jarris Walker.
Yeah.
I know they're very close, so
Yep.
maybe not quite as ready to make that jump as Walker seemed to be. But this is a guy I think that, like you said, the touch is there. Usually that's a good sign for people, extending the range out and things like that longer term. So fingers crossed for that. I also mentioned Liam McNeely, another player on that Montford team. He and Derik Queen are apparently really good friends, and McNeely is going to Indiana. Maryland and Indiana seem to be the last two teams in the running for Queen. There were some rumblings he would report today, or was going to announce today from his high school coach. They backed that off. Sounds like Houston, from what I had heard, is a little fallen back. I guess Kelvin Sampson canceled a trip down there to go see him this week. I don't know if you heard anything, any recent updates or anything like that on where the recruiting actually stands.
So I think Houston is in it for sure. I think they're really in the thick of things. If I was a betting person, I think that he probably would pick it'll be between one of those three, and I think Houston is probably very high on that list. I actually was at Houston's practice not too long ago when he was there. I know that he really had a good time on this visit. When I was in Vegas for the Border League, someone was out there watching him. Kellen was out there the other day to go see him. So I know Texas. I mean, Houston wants him bad. They want him really, really bad. So I think it's going to be a sprint to the end. I think it's going to be a sprint. And, Liam, he's doing a very, very good job recruiting him. So their teammate, he sees him every single day. So, Indiana, they may have a slight edge from the consistency part. But I think all teams have a good chance. But I want to see where he ends up. I think he'll be successful at any of three of those schools.
I know Indiana's leaning hard on we developed Trace Jackson Davis into a pro. But did he really change his game a whole lot? Did he add a jump shot, things like that Derik Queen is going to probably have to show? And you've got Julian Reese at Maryland making a similar growth or potential, growth to Trace Jackson Davis. So maybe that helps as well. We haven't seen him shoot it much yet, so that'll be big this year, I think, too. Indiana and Maryland seem to be like going head to head for a lot of guys right now. Obviously, DeShawn Harris-Smith came down to Maryland and Indiana as well, if I remember correctly. Boogie Fland, Maryland was in the mix for a little bit, ultimately ended up going to Kentucky, but Indiana also in the mix there. And then Villanova is another one that Maryland is always sort of fighting it out with here in the DMV for prospects. Just a lot of this seems to be coming down to NIL too. Those two programs especially are dropping the bag for guys. Does that make it hard for you to keep track of where guys actually are recruiting wise when you don't know how much somebody can show up with, in terms of NIL money?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, some schools it varies, from whatever to whatever. So I think it does put a role into it, but sometimes I think that's where the relationship matters. You have you look at like Ace and Noel came in the other day. They've been recruiting him since he was like 8th, 9th grade. The relationship was there. Don't get me wrong, Georgia has a ton of money. Don't get me wrong. So that helps. His brother was on the team currently. So I think the relationship matters, and NIL will always play a factor depending on the kid that you're dealing with. But I think at the end of the day, coaches just got to recruit. You have to get in there. And if the money's similar, I think the kid, I don't think the kid's going to make a big deal about it, because I kind of always see it as if you sacrifice that $75K to go make a couple million a couple years from now if you find the right fit. So that would always be my message to kids.
Yeah, that's great advice. You get to kind of see the forest through the trees there, I guess, as they say.
Yeah.
That'll be really interesting to see how that one kind of plays out. Derik Queen also played high school basketball with Jahnathan Lamothe and Julian Reese at Maryland. So you mentioned relationships too. Maybe having two of your boys on the team there helps them a little bit. So it sounds like he's waiting until National Signing Day on the 8th of November to make that sort of decision official from what I've heard. So I don't know. That'll be something the Maryland fans, I think, will be constantly refreshing all the message boards for.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Just talking kind of more broadly, DMV recruiting and prospects like that. I know you were recently out in Las Vegas for the Wooten camp. Can you talk a little bit about that event overall, and then maybe we'll get into some specific guys you saw out there?
So this is my fourth year in a row going to the event. It's always typically one of my favorite ones I go to. This year was the first time they let the overtime elite kids come, and this was the first time they let NBA personnel come in there. So it was cool to see, some NBA scouts in there, high-level personnel in there watching some of the kids. But it was a really good event. I thought some of the better players I saw there was Ian Jackson, committed to North Carolina, Tahar Pettiford that's going to Auburn. They were my two MVPs of the event. I mean, Ian Jackson, he's really good in the half court, super high IQ, and he's elite in the pick and roll. So North Carolina has a really, really good prospect coming in. Pettiford in the half court, he's just a blur. He's just hard to stay in front of. He's going to be a star in Auburn. What they've done with guards around his size over the past 5 to 6 years is unbelievable. Sharif Cooper, Aiden Holloway's there now. Jared Harper took them to a Final Four. Bruce Brown was on that team. So they've done really well with guards.
Yeah, Bruce Pearl does not seem to shy away from kind of the smaller stature guys, and he's just worried about who can hoop. And I think that's probably freeing for some of these guys that have had to be, kind of slept on their whole life, probably.
No, for sure.
A couple of Maryland guys out there. Khani Rooths, he's kind of deciding between Georgia and a couple other schools right now. Fell off the Maryland radar a little bit, unfortunately, because I think this is a guy that's a future pro. How did Khani play out there?
He was good. He was one of the kids. So I saw him play for the first time maybe like 2 summers ago when he was you saw the potential. He was getting better, but then he really took off over the last 2 years, and now he's probably like a top 50 kid now. So he really can play. He's big. He's athletic. He's skilled for his size. I want to see if Georgia can get him because Georgia, I mean, they have a chance to do something that we've never seen Georgia do. They got Asa Newell. Darion Reed is going to make his decision on Saturday. I think they have a good chance to get him. You add in a Khani Rooths. I mean, that would by far be the best recruiting class Georgia probably ever had. And I think they'd be well on their way if they get a couple of guys like that.
Yeah, no kidding. 2 big potential pro wings is a pretty good starting point for Mike White and the rebuild there. And you mentioned their money, like you've got all the Georgia football money kind of trickling over to basketball. I think they're gonna be a team on the upswing here in the next couple of years. Some other names out there: Donnie Freeman is a Syracuse commit. He's from St. John's College High School in DC. 6'9", long athlete, kind of fits that mold of guys that Syracuse has sort of always looked for, even if they're not playing his own anymore. I guess, how did Donnie look out there? Do you remember how he played?
Donnie's really good. I got to see him in the championship game at the Peach Jam. They won it all. He's really good. Can really shoot. He can shoot the ball. Athletic. Runs the floor. I think he can be a pro. The one and done, not sure, but I think I could see him being there maybe 2 years. He can get about it there. He's super versatile. I like what he does offensively. He's a guy that, pretty much from the elbow extended, he's pretty much money from there. So he's going to be a good player for years to come.
We love to hear that about all our DMV guys, even if they're not going to some of the local schools we like. We still want them to show out well for the area.
Yeah.
Another name, Tyler Jackson. He's 6'2" guard, going to play for OTE this upcoming year. He's from Baltimore. Not traditionally the DMV, but he's close enough that we want to keep tabs on him too. A guard for the class of 2025. What do you think of Tyler Jackson, and what can local fans expect to see from him over the next couple of years, you think?
Big fan of Tyler Jackson. He's one of the better point guards in the country. He's super good in the pick and roll. I just like the way he plays. He has like a quiet toughness about him. He's super tough. He really gets in. He really gets in the guys defensively. Makes good decisions with the ball in his hands. And I think that he has a chance. That class is loaded with guards. You have Darius Acuff, Mikael Brown Jr., Caden Boozer, Aaron Rowe, Tyler Jackson. But that's one of the better point guard classes we've seen in a long time. But I could see him. He's 5th in the class now in point guard, but I could see him getting in the top 3. I could see he's good enough. He's good enough. So, and every time I see him, I saw him at Overtime's Pro Day. he was the best player in the gym when I saw him there. And at Wooten, he was really good. So I'm a big fan of that kid, and I want to see where he ends up.
I might butcher the pronunciation here, the last name. This is not a guy I don't think who was out at Wooten camp, but another local name, Nate Ament, Ament. He's a 6'9", or excuse me, yeah, one of the more intriguing prospects in the class. 6'9", long guy. Familiar with him at all?
I've seen him. Some young kid. I need to watch him more, but he's I think in his class, I think he's like the first or second best small forward in his class, and he's starting to pick up offers a lot. He's been dominant at some of the camps. He's really right now. I think they seem like a 3-and-D prospect, but the potential is there. I think he can do a little bit more than given credit for, and I want to see him grow. I mean, he's 6'9", can put the ball on the floor, he can shoot it. He's gonna be a special one for years.
Last one here, kind of on the Maryland radar. Who, if they don't get Derik Queen, this is probably their last best hope potentially. He's technically a member of the class of 2025, but everyone expects him to reclassify. It's Efeosa Oliogu. Have you seen him at all? He'll be at OTE this year.
Yeah. Big time athlete. I mean, you won't find better athletes in the gym than him. I mean, he looks like a linebacker almost. He's just so big and really put together.
Mm-hmm.
I think where he's going to be special is defensively, his athleticism. I mean, he really can get into defenders. He's physical, he's strong, and then he's hard to score on. And then what I like is when he gets the ball in transition, you got to move out the way because he's coming in there with force. He's gonna dunk on you. So he's gonna dunk it hard. So he's I was actually very impressed with him. He's starting to shoot the ball much better too. So that's scary for a kid of that size. So I know Maryland's really going after him. They're going really after. Hopefully they can get that kid because he's gonna. He has a chance to be special.
Like I mentioned at the beginning here, they've missed on some guys they wanted, but if you can kind of come out of this with Queen and Oliogu, that's a hell of a recruiting class, and you've really saved your year. If even one of the two, honestly, is still pretty good.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't want to look too far. We have a whole season, but you can land Oliogu, Queen, and Kaiser comes back. I mean, who knows what Harris-Smith? Maybe he comes back too. I mean, man, we're talking. We're talking that could be special, going into the following season. But we'll see how these freshmen play this year.
And they would potentially have another year of Julian Reese should he decide to stick around. So you pair him in the front court with Queen. That would look pretty darn good. I always get a little nervous when guards, especially, talk about reclassifying. Haven't had a great track record of the underaged freshmen coming in, but it sounds like Oliogu physically is a guy that you're not going to have to worry about. Like he's ready to go. Yeah,
physically, I think he's fine. I want to see him continue to shoot the ball better because in the Big Ten is a super physical league. So him going into the lane with the trees in there, I don't know how successful he would be. So he's going to have to be able to make shots. But he shot it much better the last two times I've seen him. And speaking of reclass, the success rate of that just for all positions is very low. Me and a buddy, we did this like over the summer. We did the math, and it was like 1 in every 33 kids were like successful doing it. It's hard. It's hard. I don't recommend it, but it's becoming a more popular trend. You see Yves Messi, Jaren Stevenson, Elliot Cadeau, all those guys reclassified this year. So they're in college now. So I want to see how those guys look.
Yeah, someone like a Kylan Boswell at Arizona was a guy,
like
an elite prospect. He reclassified, did not do much last year, but everybody's expecting a huge year from him this year. It's kind of a redshirt year last year almost.
Yeah, I think it's fine if they redshirt. Now, when they go in there and play, that's when it gets hard because that last year of high school ball, it's super important for a kid's development on and off the floor. So when you just throw them in the mix with, the transfer portal, now how many dudes are like 24? You have a 17-year-old going against 24-year-olds, it's a big jump.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you talk about some of these guys, like you look at the Memphis group, if they get DeAndre Williams back, like their average age is like 26, which is more than the Grizzlies starting 5. I mean, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting. So looking forward to seeing Oliogu. I'm just going to throw a couple more DMV names at you here. For anyone listening to this, Tobias is incredible with keeping track of these, but I'm going a little more deep cut, lower down guys. So no big deal if you haven't seen them. There's Cam Ward, a 6'7" small forward out of Largo. Got Eric Reba, a big 6'10" stretch big out of Bullis Academy here. And Christian Gerdock, who is a 6'9", sort of old school, back to the basket big out of Gonzaga High School here. Any of those names that you've seen or familiar with or stand out to you?
Yeah. I like Cam Ward. He plays for Team Durant. He's been racking up a bunch of offers lately. Villanova, Louisville, Michigan State over the last month or so. But No, I like him. I like him a lot. I want to see him. I want to see him play this summer. He's a kid I actually have circled on my list. I want to track him throughout the year and watch him this summer again. I saw him in Dallas, and I really like what he can do at the side. He's a good player.
Yeah, this is a guy that, like, when I see that, I think like future pro, and he's a guy that chose to stay at a local public high school and is hoping that he can bring other guys to him and they can make a run, which is kind of cool. Instead of like bailing down to Florida at IMG or Montverde or one of these kind of schools, it's nice to see a guy want to stay home and build something local, which is fun.
Yeah.
Any other DC, Maryland, Virginia guys that you can think of that maybe we haven't talked about here that fans want to keep an eye out for?
DC, Maryland. I need to look at the list, but that area is strong. I mean, I know. I wouldn't say it's slept on because there've been a ton of players over the years that have been really good, but I feel like other states have been talked about more lately. But they have some really, really good players over there that need to be talked about more for sure.
We think locally it's the best recruiting area in the country. We're obviously biased, but the WCAC High School League especially, I think, is deep as you can get anywhere. So if you ever make it up this way for anything, Tobias, we'll get together and watch some games with you and pick your brain in person here. That'll be pretty fun. Other big name here in the recruiting circles locally is just, honestly, as a coach, Ed Cooley making the move to Georgetown. Have you seen that impact any of the recruiting at all here with any of these kind of local names? Like, is Ed making some moves and some headway and getting back Georgetown back on the map, I guess?
What I liked what he did was he got commitments. He got 4 24s early. I think they have like a top 10 class at the moment right now. So he was able to get some of his kids early. He didn't have to wait. But I think he's gonna fix the place. Basketball is better when Georgetown is good. I know it's been a couple years when they've kind of struggled, and I don't think all of it was, the previous one was his fault. But you got to make the place fun. It's a legendary place. So I think Cooley will do that. And I think that I will say he does like older guys. When he was at Providence, they were old, and he's going to hit the transfer portal hard. But they were winning. They were winning, and I think nothing solves anything like winning. So if you're winning, kids are going to want to play there. That's just how it is. And there's kids in the area to get. So if he can win some games, start off this year and keep adding on to that, I think he'll be able to sign some players. He'll fix that place.
As a Maryland alum, selfishly, I don't want him to steal any guys that Maryland would otherwise got. But I think you nailed it. Basketball is just better when Georgetown is relevant, at least, and being the worst team in the Big East or one of the two worst teams is not like what you want from them. And I think that'll make the Big East even better if they're relevant again. So I'm hopeful he can get things back on track, like you said.
Yeah. And you actually did with some Virginia kids. I mean, Virginia's loaded right now. You got Darren Harris, Isaiah Abraham, Patrick Mbongo, who I think he just cut his list. He visits Kansas State this weekend, and Bryson Tucker at Bishop O'Connell. So there's a bunch of talent in the state. I really, really like Darren Harris. He was also on that team takeover team. I mean, they were loaded. They had so many good players on that team, and there was a reason why they won. But the championship game, I Believe he won MVP. He really shot the ball well. I think he had like 26, 27 points. Most of them were from three. He can really shoot the ball going to Duke next year. And he's gonna be successful out there in Duke.
I've seen Nick Lewis from that team takeover team. Another guard.
The point guard, I like it. He's strong, doesn't turn. He's a good, steady point guard. That's what teams need. Where is he? He hasn't committed. I like Nick Lewis though, but he set the table for those guys. He was the reason why they won.
And another guy on the Maryland radar here, so I'm always interested to see where those guys go. Maybe going out 1 year to the 2026 class, Quincy Wadley. Have you seen Quincy at all yet?
I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him yet, but I know who he is though.
Okay, I've heard good things. So Maryland area recruiting for the 2026 class is apparently like loaded. So I'm curious to see more of those guys. Yeah. Tobias, you wrote an article over the summer, I want to say, where you talked about, or maybe at the end of last year, about just how much the transfer portal has affected recruiting and changed things up. And been doing these interviews with all the local coaches, and I've kind of asked them all the same question, and I want to hear their different answers on just how transfer portals change things for them. But just from your perspective, I guess, what has that done to the game? And just for you personally, is that hard to keep track of when there's, half of college basketball ends up in the portal every year?
Yeah, some are easier than others. I mean, especially those mid-major kids, they have a good year or two, they're going to leave. That's pretty much, it's rare to see one C1 state, and I get it. There's money involved. You want to test yourself. You can maybe even get drafted doing it. So I get it. It's an interesting dynamic. Sometimes some kids they leave, and sometimes the grass isn't greener. Sometimes it really does help them. So I think I like the transfer portal. I like for what it is. I like that they shortened the days from 60 to 45. That'll go into place this spring. So I think it helps coaches because a coach will go out on a recruiting trip. When he comes back, he never knows what he's coming back to. Some of his guys might be gone. So,
Right.
So you have to re-recruit your own play. It makes it difficult on coaches, but them shortening it by 15 days, I think helps both sides.
That's a major point that you just made that almost all of these coaches have talked about is when I've asked how do they keep their guys from getting poached, they just say they're constantly throughout the year recruiting their own guys. Like literally it's an ongoing thing. So that's got to be tough for them. So just having a few extra days of not having to worry about that, I'm sure would be a big relief.
Yeah, and I think too, you've also seen the portal affect the high school level as well. Because one, the coaches aren't recruiting the high school level like they were before, and then two, you're starting to see the high school kids are committing early. I think last year it was like over 85% of them, I Bleav they committed early. So last year, of the top 150 prospects, 100 of them committed before December 1st.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen that before, but they're getting off the board because especially the ones that are not top 30 guys, they have to commit because if you wait till November, December time, hey, we're cool. We want to keep 3 or 4 scholarship reported out, so you got to go somewhere else.
I'm pretty psycho about this stuff, and I follow it as closely as I can. Obviously, not as well as you guys who do it professionally, but I don't know how you keep track. I don't know how coaches keep track. You would almost have to refresh the portal every day and just blast everybody, and call every name, and it just seems like such a hard place to start, I guess, and try to figure out who is even an option for you.
And even now, I mean, it's crazy as it is October 27th. I'm already hearing names of guys. They already say, I'm leaving, when my season's over. They haven't played a game yet. So, you have that type of stuff. The kid didn't play that much in the scrimmage. Coach probably yelled at him too many times on Wednesday, and now, I don't want to be here. I want to leave. So, and coaches hear that too. Some of it from their own guys, some of it from other teams in the league or just across the country. So, this spring, it'll be crazy again. It'll be like that forever. But, yeah, I just find it crazy that kids are already wanting to leave and they haven't played a game yet. I find that funny.
Yeah, I think that's going to be another thing is do we get a guy that hasn't played a game yet and he leaves mid-season and then enters the portal right away? I think we've seen a few of those, which is kind of wild to me that you wouldn't just try to see if things get better over the course of the year. If they're already going to lose a year, why not stick around and make it work? So that'll be interesting to continue to track what guys do longer term. So I guess for the portal and things like that, for me, I think if a coach leaves, I don't care how many times somebody's transferred, a player should be able to leave. They've gone there to play for that coach, but the unlimited transfers and the waivers where some guys get it for the exact same thing and other guys don't, that's tougher. I think you have no consistency.
Yeah. I mean, you look at yesterday, a kid I know well, Jalen Tyson, he transferred from Texas Tech to Cal. Mm-hmm. He didn't get the waiver. I mean, and his coach got fired. I mean, what do you want him to do? And they're going to appeal it, but I didn't think that was fair. But you have another kid. This is his 4th time transferring. He's not a grad transfer either. He got the waiver. He pretty much applied for the waiver and got it within a week or two. So I was like, how can one kid get it? Like you said, there's no consistency. And I think they really have to take a look into that, and there's not going to be a perfect solution because you're going to make someone's going to be mad regardless. But I think if your coach gets fired, that should pretty much be automatic. You got to get the waiver.
Especially if he gets fired for sort of weird, inappropriate circumstances like a Mark Adams, where there's some shady shit going on.
For sure, yeah. That's just then you have it too, where not in Tyson's situation, but you have another kid. Let's say another coach gets fired and the new coach doesn't want him.
Yeah.
The NCAA did put a rule in place where you can't get rid of kids. They want to stay, you have to keep them, but there's no perfect that you can't enforce that directly because the coach might not directly tell the kid, I don't want you here, but it may
you're
be
just
subtle.
Not going to play. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna play. He come in. They might do little things to get him to leave, and that may happen in the future. So there's no. I think if your coach gets fired, they have to take a look into that, and they have to be able to play.
It seems like the waivers that are getting accepted are the guys that are going back closer to home, and I know a lot of guys
Yep.
are listing mental health reasons and things like that. But I've even heard some situations where guys are taking counseling throughout the year just so if they do want to transfer, they have that to put
Yeah.
on their waivers that they've had struggles all year, which is actually smart. Like that's next level stuff. But there's got to be some kind of way to regulate that kind of stuff, I would think.
Yeah, because I was talking to a coach about that the other day. Like, and granted, there are some kids that are really honestly dealing with some mental health stuff, and I hope
Yeah, for
every one of
sure.
those kids gets the help that they need. But the ones that are, you know, I think that all kids, all athletes should see a sports psychologist because it's hard what they're going through. But
Oh
but
yeah.
the ones that are just mad that coach isn't playing me, I think you're kind of making a mockery out of that.
Hmm.
There's really people out here that have they're dealing with some stuff, and
Sure.
those kids need to get help. So and I think too, it kind of the side of the part that I don't like is that these kids, there's no accountability. Well, I can just blame the coach and leave.
Right.
Now you're on your second school. Well, I can blame the coach again and leave. You're not holding yourself accountable. And some of the kids, you won 4 games last year. You averaged 2 points a game. It's just a bunch of guys that haven't won, just swapping around, moving around. You have to win. You have to win games. If I want to bring a transfer, I want him to be a winner, someone that can help me win games.
Yep.
If you have been a cancer everywhere you've been, I'm cool on that. You can stay where you at.
Yeah, I love it for the older guys, like you said, that played at a mid-major and they want a chance to
Yeah,
show themselves on the brightest lights, or just move up and challenge themselves. Like I'm all for that kind of stuff. It's well, I didn't work hard on as a freshman and he didn't play me, so I'll
yeah,
just leave.
yeah,
But there's no really good way to screen which situation is which. That's why I like the one-time transfer for everybody. And
yeah,
from there, you've kind of made your bed to a certain extent. And then again, if your coach gets fired or you do have a serious reason, I think what you said about some guys really having mental health related challenges, especially from playing, like these guys got like, if you see their DMs
yeah,
or the comments under
yeah.
their posts, a lot of times it's some pretty negative shit. So
Yeah, no, for
it's tough.
sure. And yeah. And one thing I tell the kids too, high school and the portal kids, I was like, every move a college coach has made via recruiting, you can find it online. You can
Mhm.
literally see the type of kids that he recruits in the past. So yeah, they can lie to you about certain things, but you can look up a lot of these things too and find out for yourself. So, you gotta love who loves you and pick the right school. And I think the mid majors, they're probably in a way they probably hate the portal because they're losing some of the guys, but in the back end, there's a positive side of it too. They're getting really good high school kids. They're getting super really good high school kids because they're not being recruited.
Right.
So I think they're able to come up in their own way.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how this will kind of hurt like mid-major or lower major basketball, but I think they have more access to get better high school kids
Yeah,
than they ever did. So I think maybe it kind of balances itself out. Now, do they keep them is probably a question, but
yep.
we'll see. In the
And I
chat,
think that
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, go ahead,
No,
go ahead.
please go
Well,
ahead.
I think the gap between low, mid, and high major has significantly shrunken a lot. I mean, look at last FAU. People
Mhm.
don't even know where FAU is. People have
Right.
their own fans weren't even going to the games last year. They were in, they could have won it all last year.
Mhm.
So I think that the gap is like the guard they got there now from Gary. There's he's way better, but no one recruited him.
Yep.
No one was going to those high school games watching that kid play. So he is where he is.
You're as out there as anybody I know of, and I love following you, especially on Instagram, because every time I look, you're in a new gym watching these kids play. But it's an imperfect science, right? Like you can only see so many kids, and it's
Yeah,
not there's no magic formula to say what level a guy should play at. So there's always going to be guys that fall through the cracks a little bit, and it is cool to see all of them kind of stick together on one team like an FAU, and it probably doesn't hurt that being in Boca Raton is not a bad part of Florida to
yeah,
be in. So.
right, right.
In the chat here, it never makes no sense asked, how can you tell when scouting who is a committed kid in high school, especially with high school kids going to 3 or 4 different schools? So I think what he's asking here is essentially like, you've got a guy that's transferred 3, 4, 5 times, even in high school. Would that
Yeah.
scare you as a college coach about like, this guy's not in it for the long haul because he's already moved around a lot?
Oh, absolutely. I know. I know several schools that they will not recruit a kid if he's transferred from either AAU team or high school team. They will not recruit him. I've seen this with I know a kid very well 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He switched AAU teams in the middle of the year. He did it for good reason. It was a high major program that stopped recruiting him.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, if they would have recruited him the same way, he would have went to that school. So it does happen. And I get it, if he's not loyal to his high school team or his AAU coach, why would he be loyal to me? Especially when you have money involved and, God knows what else. So, yeah, I agree with it. I mean, now the flip side of it is playing devil's advocate. No one complains when the coach does it.
Yep,
He can leave right now and no one would say anything. So I think I think that now that it's been flipped. Now the kids are starting to have more power. I think that some of the older coaches, they don't know how to handle. They don't know how to deal with it because the kids, they have leverage now. They never had that before. So I think it's an interesting dynamic in between. That's where, again, relationships matter with your players.
You mentioned coaches, like a guy you saw up close for a while there, and like Chris Beard. That's a guy that coached at a smaller school, moved to Arkansas Little Rock for 1 year, moved to Texas Tech for a couple of years, and then moved on to Texas. Obviously, he's moved on since that for some not as good reasons, but no one cared when he kept taking jumps up every couple of years. So, like you said, it's not it's not fair or equitable, I guess, between kids and coaches.
Yeah, and I'm a Tech alum, so when he left Tech to go to Texas, I don't blame him. I know a lot of fans were mad, and I get it, but he's supposed to do that. Like, it's his alma mater. He's going to make more money. He has access to get different type of kids. I'd have done the same thing, and he should have did it. So there's nothing wrong there. So if a kid wants to take a better opportunity for himself, he should do that too. He or she should be entitled to do that.
A little off topic from the DMV and the recruiting stuff, but I got to ask you while I got you. What do we think about Grant McCasland and the hire there at Texas Tech? You feeling good about it?
Love Grant. Really good guy. I was up there with them maybe about 2 months ago for the Oregon game. I went there to go watch them practice. He's a good guy. Coaches his team hard, which I love to see, and I like the way that he's done it. Not only as a fan of the game, but just as an alum, is where I really like what he's done. And he's gonna get Texas Tech basketball to where it needs to be, and they're gonna be much better than you think this year. They're gonna be much better. They have a deep team, good players. They don't have stars, but they have 8 to 9 really good basketball players, and I think that they're going to be able to beat teams just purely off their depth and toughness and defense.
They're just going to grind the shit out of people, and he seems to have guys that are cool doing that, and I think that's when good things happen, when people all kind of fit and buy into the same style of play. So it should be exciting.
I'm sure. I'm excited to see him.
As somebody who is covering a lot of college basketball, can you explain to me what the point of a secret scrimmage is if entire box scores come out after the game? And now we're even seeing videos of secret scrimmages come out.
So this was funny. So I was watching, I was just scrolling on Twitter. Some kid, and he was whispering. He was doing a play-by-play of Xavier's scrimmage. You could tell it's like he wasn't supposed to be in there watching it. So he was kind of like whispering, but doing a play-by-play. And I was like, what are we doing? Like you said, stats are coming out. The schools are posting videos, and now we have play-by-play. They might as well just start selling tickets at this point. Because
for sure.
I think I don't take much from it, but what I do, I think it matters because the guys get to play against other competition, but their teammates won.
Yep.
Then I think too, the key is the rotations, because you're getting to see who's going to play. Like, because they're not going to put in guys that aren't going to play. You're getting to see the rotations are about how many minutes is this freshman going to play, how many minutes is this transfer going to play. So I think that's where I kind of take the most of it from. But the games, I mean, you're seeing like one dude, he had like 50. I think it was at Georgetown, Epps. I think he had like 50 the other day. Like, good player. I don't know if he's going to score 50 this year. Maybe he does, but when has the last time a kid has scored 50? Jody Meeks, like, I don't know if we're going to see him do that. So I think there's some benefits from it on both sides.
Yeah, and that was a big talk here in the area. You see, Georgetown has secret scrimmage. Okay, wait, he had 46 points in 22 minutes or whatever the number was. And that's Jaden Epps, transfer from Illinois. So I don't know. I hope they're hoping that he can do that every night, but I would caution against expecting that.
Yeah, then I think too. I think, what was it, SMU? I can't remember who they beat. I mean, SMU's are going to be good this year too. But you're seeing some of the mid majors, they're beating on some of the guys, and some guys aren't even playing. Some teams, like some of their starting guys aren't even playing, so it's kind of hard to get a real gauge from it.
Yeah, we mentioned FAU a couple minutes ago. One of their star guards, Elijah Martin, didn't
Yep.
play in a scrimmage against UNC, and apparently FAU got worked. But nobody
Yeah.
mentions that the best player on the team didn't play.
Yeah. Right. Right.
What I really enjoyed seeing is you have somebody like Dayton and Ohio State play, and they use that as an opportunity to raise money for mental health awareness and suicide prevention.
Yep.
Like, if you're going to play these games and everyone's going to know about them anyway, sell tickets and do it for a good cause here. For local DMV fans listening to this, on Saturday, the 28th at 4 p.m., Mount St. Mary's and Bucknell are playing a scrimmage to raise money for local coach Pat Behan, who is dealing with ALS. So that's a great opportunity for them to just do good with an event that people want to come out and see. So I'm going to go and I'll be there. So anybody looking for something to do with their Saturday, come join us. But yeah, you have Mount St. Mary's playing Hawaii for Maui relief. Like, why not use it positively? Because it's a thing people care about, and obviously there's an appetite for that kind of content.
Yeah, I think Illinois and Kansas are doing that. I think there's a couple other schools around the country they decide to get together and raise them. I think that's beautiful. That's a really great thing.
Just one I meant to ask you about. You wrote another really good piece last year that I've been meaning to follow up about. Just sort of about the differences and the changes that have been brought on by the G League Ignite, and OTE. Can you talk a little bit about just those two leagues and their impact on recruiting and things like that for anyone who's not familiar with those sort of two entities, I guess?
So I was in Atlanta maybe about a month ago for Overton. That was my first time going to Overton. I didn't really know what to expect, but I really, really liked my experience. I mean, the people there, they're phenomenal. I mean, just from the top to the bottom, they're super good people. They really, really enjoy and take care of the kids. So I think it's a good thing. It's still new, and people are still going to have to adjust to, but they're finding their way. Like you saw, they got to let the players go to the Wooten today. The Boozer twins were out there last weekend. They got a chance to play some of their guys. So I think that it's becoming more inclusive, and it's fun. It's fun, and it should be. And I think that they're giving those kids an opportunity that's unique in his own way, and I think it's beneficial. They had 2 draft picks last year going to lottery, and I think they're going to have a couple more going forward. And then the Ignite is also a good thing. I know Coach Hart, a good guy. He really does a good job of developing those guys. He played in the NBA for a while. He coached at the college level, so he's seen it from as a player and as a coach from both levels. So I think they do a really good job of developing, and they have some of the bright young stars in the league. And I like what the league does. And if you're one of those players that they take on, I mean, every NBA team is watching your games every night, every time you play. You're playing against other pros, so you really get to test yourself and see what you're made of. And I think that it helps. And that's a league where you really can't hide because the other 30-year-old in the G League, this may be his only chance to get in the NBA, so he's going to really go at you hard, and you really get to test yourself.
Yeah, if you're a top 10 prospect or top 10 projected NBA draft pick and someone who's been struggling in the G League is about to play you, they know NBA GMs are watching your tape. So you're going to get everybody's toughest punch every time. I think that's a good way to learn. It's trial by fire instead of playing on a college basketball team where honestly you may not be tested for the first month of the season realistically.
For sure.
Tobias, this has been awesome. What are you working on next? What can people look forward to seeing? Any pieces coming up or any things you're looking forward to seeing specifically coming up college basketball wise?
One, I'm really ready for the season. I'm really ready for just basketball to be back. The NBA's back. High school basketball starts in like a week and a half or so. We got a couple of games. Then college is, at the same time. So I'm really just ready to, see how teams look, see how my freshman list did. My freshman list got a lot of good and bad reception of it. Some people were mad about where kids were, how it is. But I'm ready to prove people wrong. I'm ready to see some of my freshmen on there, like Sam Walters, Jalen Lowe, some guys that weren't really talked about. I'm ready to see them play and see them, shine. And as far as pieces, just working on it. I'm actually about to send it in a few minutes. They asked the question was, what team that wasn't ranked in the AP Top 25 do you think will finish the year in there? So the team that I chose was TCU. I think TCU is loaded, and that'll be out in a couple. It should be out, I think, on Monday. So that'll be another good one.
I'm sure there's plenty of love for Jameer Nelson Jr. in there, so I'm looking forward to seeing more about him. Not a local guy, but as a Delaware player, it's cool keeping track of some guys, at least from the Mid-Atlantic. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm with you. I think they'll be fun to watch. Kansas State will be fun to watch. A couple Big 12 teams that'll be good. Texas Tech maybe not as aesthetically pleasing because they won't score a lot of points, but like you said, they're going to defend the hell out of people, and that's cool too.
They'll play a little faster than I think people think, just based on they're not the biggest when they have a 7-footer, but then everyone else is pretty much around 6'6" to 6'8". So I just think based on just what they have on the team, they're going to have to play a little bit fast. They're not going to be, this won't be a trap me by any stretch, but I think they'll play a tad bit faster.
I'll take it. That'll be fun to watch,
Yeah.
and I look forward to seeing that article come out on Monday there. I mentioned the writing is great, but the social media coverage is really good as well. So for anybody who isn't following you already, and I would highly recommend that you do if you're a college basketball fan. So can you tell people what your socials are for them to check you out?
You can follow me on Twitter at Tobias_Bass. That's TOBIAS_Bass. And Instagram, it's TBass43. I'll actually be posting something later on today. We have a commitment from Mikey Lewis. He's a 4-star combo guard from California. He'll be making his decision later on today. And then Darian Reed commits on Saturday. Cooper Flagg's supposed to commit literally any day. He could be when we get off, could be tomorrow, who knows? But he'll be committing any day at some point. So it's a lot of commitments coming off the board soon. So it should be fun.
One last question from me in the chat here. I want to get it before we close out. Is OTE a better development opportunity than an IMG or a Montverde or playing like in the WCAC locally?
It's a good question. I think it kind of just depends on what each situation is better for each kid. Like Montverde, you're getting. I mean, their track record is unbelievable. I mean, what they've done over there. You're also playing against high level kids. You're playing against, IMG, Oak Hill, etc. So I think that it kind of just depends on the kids' individual needs. But I wouldn't mind it as a developmental option. I guess my only thing is for OT, I want to be able to watch them on television. I think that's the next step. This is only I think year 3, so they're still figuring that out. But outside of that, I mean, you're playing good kids. You get to play the Boozer Twins. I think somebody else comes down there. I think in December. So you're playing against good kids. The competition's fine. So they just visually need to be seen. But once they figure it out, that league will be even better than what it is now.
Yeah, I think the plan is to have some games on Amazon again, but I'm not sure to what extent or how widespread that coverage will be. So that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Tobias, anything you want to leave people with, or any final parting shots on college basketball or anything here before we close out?
Just enjoy the season. I mean, enjoy the season, and if you have any questions, anyone can just DM me or message me, and I'm ready for a good season. It should be one of the better ones we've seen in a while. So I'm super excited.
I love it. Thanks, man. Appreciate the time. This was awesome, and look forward to keeping connected along the way and checking out all the work you're doing. Yeah. So keep up the great stuff.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right, everybody. You know the drill. Rate, review, subscribe. Hit that little like button for us here too, if you don't mind. And we were presented by Betonline.ag, and we'll catch y'all next time.